This is big guy. Do I need it? Probably. It all depends on.
I'll turn it on.
Missiles have been launched.
All right. There it goes.
Okay, it is 5:01 and we will begin the meeting. Can we start with the roll call, please?
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossick-Sideman,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Present.
Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
And can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to go off of agenda for just a quick second and chat a little bit about the food truck event. Just because it's top of mind and it was super duper successful. Everybody that I talked to during it and a couple of calls I got afterwards was just fabulous. Everybody enjoyed it. Thank you to the staff for pulling it off, for setting it up, for being there to run it. I only got one negative, and that was the food was too spicy. The shrimp was too spicy. But let that be, I mean, that's the only negative. People just were saying that they got a great feeling of the small town that we live in. I don't know, did anybody get any negatives at all or anything you want to add to it?
No,
Because we got another one coming up.
I had people say they were delighted that they'd never seen anything like this in this town before. And they thought it was absolutely terrific.
Yep. Anybody want to add anything else? Just jump in.
Yeah, I thought it was nice to meet people that I hadn't met before that had come out for the event. And I also kind of like that we have another one coming up because there were some people who I thought would want to go but didn't go. And I took it as an opportunity to submit some more emails so that people would get on the distribution list. And so now they know to come to the next one. So I'm excited about that too. So to get more engagement with the community.
Yeah.
Be good.
Yeah, I met a lot of people that I hadn't met before, which obviously was the whole point of the thing, which was great.
Mhm.
Peg, you got to have something to add.
It was all good. Spice was fine, but I understand a few people like less spicy. I like spicy. It was
Yeah, I
fabulous.
don't
Thank
mind
you, staff.
spicy, but by the time I got to the shrimp, it was all gone. So
Oh, thank you to the wonderful staff.
great job, just terrific.
The only comment that I would make, like Natasha mentioned, a couple of people I talked to said, "Oh, I heard about the truck stop and I didn't know." So they didn't get the notice or something. So I think it's important for all of those who are watching, get on the list.
Mhm.
I'm glad we are having another one. And one prominent person said, this is really good that we're all getting together. Another prominent person said to me, I didn't realize how much this is costing us with Del Rey. This is like a no-brainer. So it was very positive for the decision. There was nothing but positive feedback. On
Yeah, as I was talking with people, I was getting the no-brainer quote over and over again. Obviously, I don't use that term. It's a bit of a throwaway, maybe a little derogatory. So, but yeah, I was getting that feedback. The only question I was getting was, will this affect our taxes? I know, Peggy, you'd gotten that a week or two ago also. And obviously the answer is no, but when you get a chance to explain it, very good. Marshall, it was a great idea and glad we're doing another one down the road.
I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. It's great seeing everybody, bringing everybody together. It's fantastic.
Yep.
It's about time.
It's September 23rd.
Well, it's around the corner, excuse me.
It's around the corner.
Yeah, not down the road. Yeah.
So
Mayor?
anyone who didn't get a chance to come on September
Yeah,
23rd.
unfortunately, not a lot of people tune in to watch these special meetings. We don't get a lot on that, but maybe more people will come next time. I
Mayor?
think the rain might have,
Scare a few
Yeah.
off, yeah.
might have
Yeah.
thrown a few people away.
Well, then put in your request for no rain.
I've asked.
I will add that a couple people were amazed to find out that we will be going from 2 trucks part-time to ideally 4 trucks full-time,
Yeah.
which
that's
more than
huge.
doubles, it actually quadruples our response efforts. And they didn't even understand that. So the more we can punch that point home is even better. Thank you.
I think you're right. I think that when the doors are closed, no one realizes when there are trucks in there and when there aren't, because they wouldn't think about it. But very often, if those doors are closed and they're out, they're just out. There's no backup. There's no one there.
Right. Yeah. Anytime I explain that, people say, oh my goodness, I didn't know that either. Nobody had a problem with the $10 million once you get a chance to explain that either. So it was just all good. It was great. Well done. Okay, anything else? Move
We're
on.
good.
Okay, need an approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the presentation of the operating budget, which is the reason we are here. Turn it over to Matt and to Marshall.
Yeah. So Matt, I'll give you the presentation. I'm guessing he'll move through it pretty quickly. We've got a pretty good hold of the numbers and the things we're seeing. Again, as I had emailed to you all, the changes that we've made since last time had no net effect on the general fund. We just took recognized some of the savings from the healthcare premium reduction, improvement in the health insurance and the property insurance cost reductions there to create the administrative position that was also recognized in the fire study to kind of start serving that HR role. And the thing that I forgot to tell you that Matt did also is we put in the 15 grand for the enhancements to the library so we could do more public meetings there. So that was 15 grand to get the equipment to do that. So we actually added that to the general fund as well.
Can you walk us through some details on what that equipment is and what benefits we're going to get from it? Sounds like a really good deal.
Pretty.
So the production company Zebedee, they gave us a quote, and the $15,000 would make up 2 cameras that would be portable on tripods that we can set up in the library community event room anywhere we see fit. We're thinking one to face towards the presenter or the stage, the other one facing towards the audience. And they would also have a portable, I guess you can say, navigation center in the back of the library so that we can switch between the inputs, just have the camera view switch kind of like we do here in the commission chambers. And then we can also live stream to Zoom as well as YouTube and then broadcast it on channel 99. So essentially we can do everything we do in this chamber in the library.
So for example, just me here's a great example. I move around when I present. May walk up and down the aisles, etc. No problem with that.
No problem. The cameras have the joystick. That's what the portable navigation center will do. You can move the cameras back and forth, full 360. Both camera views can get the whole spot of the room, any place you walk.
And we got
No
those-
problem.
It also includes the microphones, couple lapel mics too, so we can
Oh,
mic
that's
somebody
great.
up so they can
So
move
we'll
around.
pick up audio with no problem.
Yes, and we'll replace, and thank you, Marshall, I apologize, I forgot that. We'll replace all of the wireless mics that we currently have in the library to upgrade them, upgrade the audio so that everything is synchronized and works together. And it'll give great quality videos.
All good, all good. That's great.
Yes,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anybody have any questions?
Excellent.
Okay, well done. Thank you. Do you want us, as we go through, to have motions and votes on each section again?
There's no need to do that unless you direct me at some point that you didn't like the changes that were made. Otherwise, will stay in there. Matt will go through the presentation, kind of giving the 40,000 foot view with all the adjusted numbers. And then we get to the approval of the budget resolution, and then we have the resolution for the millage rate. So we have the two resolutions, the only actions you have to take tonight.
Great, okay.
Push the button, Matt.
I'm pushing the button.
You're moving around, I see.
Have to do it around. This is pretty much the same presentation you've seen about 5 times. You probably don't even need to see the slides anymore.
Could we just manually do it? Like click, click, click.
Oh, there. Okay,
She's gonna do
no
it. So
problem.
good.
We'll start with an overview of the proposed budget. There is a slight decrease in the millage rate proposed related to the transition within the water fund to fund debt service costs with water and sewer rates as opposed to ad valorem taxes. We did pick up some growth in the tax roll. Now it's gone. We did pick up some growth in the tax roll, approximately 275,000. That's from the growth, as I mentioned, tax roll of about 3%.
Matt, does that mean that we might have an increase in our population as well? Or is it just value on the property?
It's just taxable value. It's mostly due to assessments.
But do we have a
Not
way
too
of
much new.
knowing if we've had an increase or how much of
Well,
an increase?
I can jump in if I can. The census projected a mild increase. I think it brought us up to
65?
3,800, 3,900.
And in season 60?
Well, they don't do an inverse.
Yeah.
But our permanent population was like 3,450, 3,485, something like that.
36.
36, excuse me. And now it's 38, almost 39. 100. And they're all going to come on the 23rd.
Well, I gotta
So
plan a little bit.
we need a bigger tent. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
But that's a projection, as you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the most important things I think to point out here is that we are pledging some use of reserves for the recommended budget, but it is less than the increase in the fire rescue budget by itself. We have proposed use of reserve about 456,000. We have a anticipated increase in the fire department of about 623,000. Couple other things that we're taking care of with this budget, besides our commitments to salary and benefits under our collective bargaining agreements, is significant reinvestment in capital projects within the town, using
the ARPA federal grants associated with COVID relief, some new vehicles for police and our new fire rescue chief, and replacement of the north and south entry signs and replacement of the town benches and garbage cans and a couple of fences as well. As mentioned earlier, there is a slight reduction in the debt service millage, 0.1653 mils, which does reduce the overall ad valorem taxes within the town by about 115,000. As mentioned earlier, we have a 3.3% change in taxable value compared to last year. And that's about on par with what we have averaged over the past 12 years.
Matt,
Just
I have
a-
a quick
Sure.
question, sorry. When you are doing the budget and you're plugging in the amount of tax revenues that we'll get, do you plug in 100% of the tax assessment base times the tax
No,
rate?
we use 96%.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that historically, that's about where we have collected. And theoretically, that makes sense because most of our town residents take advantage of the 4% discount by paying their taxes by December 1st.
Okay, so,
And then some smaller amounts will use a 3% discount for paying in the month of December and the 2% in January. And by then, we've collected nearly all of our tax revenue at that point.
okay, so you are, the amount that you plug in is the discounted as if everybody pays in November.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
As I mentioned before, slight discount in the overall millage rate of about 4.4%. And that the operating millage is unchanged. The only change is to the debt service millage in the proposed FY22 budget. Here's a comparison of where our total millage rate stands in comparison to some other jurisdictions within Palm Beach County. As you can see, we're expecting to be about the third lowest millage rate in the upcoming year. And that,
Before you get off of that,
Sorry.
leave that up for a second.
sure,
OCA always communicates that their millage rate is very, very low. It's always a 3 point something, around 3.5-ish.
Mhm.
And we obviously show it at 4.65. What do they leave out?
well,
On what
that
they're
is their
showing.
operating millage. They also have a debt service millage, and they also have the millage rate associated with their parks board. So when you total all those things together, they end up at the 4.65.
So clearly they're taxing it 4.65.
If that is the aggregate that any resident within the town pays.
And I'll also point out, they also pay a flat $150 per.
For fire
per,
assessment. Yeah.
So they have a, yes. I can't remember if there's a separate other, is there
Yeah.
another debt for fire too? I can't remember.
I
Yeah,
think there's a
well,
$150.
yeah,
fire
there's
fee.
that. And I guess I thought there was some other line item that was a percentage. But yeah, so that's not even factored into this
This is simply
comparison.
ad valorem taxes, not any additional assessments on top of that. But it would be on top of that. millage
Right.
rate.
And it's unusual to me. It's like a fixed amount. It's $150. So whether you have a $3 million house or $150,000 house, everybody's paying
The same.
that same
Right.
flat fee.
Yeah, thank you.
Question then, Matt, just to take it one step further. So we're all in with our 37878.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, that's the current year. That's, we're actually going down
Yeah,
based on that.
for 22,
Right.
but you also don't have even, I know, obviously, they're doing the same thing as we're doing, but you don't have any idea whether these other towns are also lowering or raising their mill rates.
At this point, we just don't know.
You haven't gotten any
because they're-
feedback from
They're
any-
sort of in the same
Yeah.
process that we're going through right now. And in a couple of weeks, we could probably update this.
Yeah, I
And
think
until
this,
they
this
get-
chart will change dramatically,
Mhm.
maybe, in the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks, is my point.
I don't think it'll
Not
probably
dramatic.
change dramatically, I don't think.
Well-
You might have a few that go up and down, but I don't think you're gonna see, I haven't heard anything about any of these jurisdictions where they're expecting any dramatic change, with maybe the exception of Delray Beach, which is facing a pretty sizable deficit for this point in their budget process. They might be the only ones who have to maybe do a little millage adjustment as opposed to most of these others. I would guess that Manalapan will still probably be the lowest and South Palm Beach will be, second lowest, and we'll probably be number 3. If you might see where we move to the number 4, but I really don't think we'd end up much
Right.
higher than that.
So, and I'm sorry for a tangent here, but is there any particular reason why North Palm Beach is a fairly small community? Why it's so high?
Well, I think one of the reasons has to do with that they get their fire rescue services. They don't in North Palm?
No, they have they're a little bit bigger. They have more parks. So they have additional costs related to their park systems and things of that nature.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it Juneau? Yeah.
Juneau is the one that if you look at it, they're usually their local millage rate would be about 2 flat. But you see that the 3.4660 is the MSTU for the county fire. So that drove up Juneau Beach. They're another lower cost, lower tax rate community, except for they have to pay for the fire component. Similar to Ocean Ridge, they got to pay. Nah, Ocean Ridge wouldn't be too
Yeah.
impacted by it.
South Palm will drop probably next year or the following year, because there's a large high rise that's soon to be completed.
Mhm.
And it's a very small community, as we all know.
That makes a big
And
dent.
they'll get significant tax revenues off of that. But whatever. I'm sorry to.
Any other
Yeah,
questions? sir?
move on.
Okay. And that reduction in the millage rate that I mentioned leads to obviously some savings for our homeowners, depending on the value of their property, ranging somewhere between $41 for a condo value or with a taxable value of about $250,000 and about $165 lower for a home valued at $1 million.
And I guess on this slide, you might want to point out that assumes that the assessed value didn't change, right?
Yes.
So that's assuming that the county
Yes.
didn't change their value.
As mentioned before, the taxes paid to the town is just one of several taxing authorities that impact our residents. They pay an overall millage rate of about 17.3 mils, with roughly a little less than a quarter of that coming from the town, and the remainder coming from Palm Beach County Schools, Palm Beach County, and then several special districts, the Florida Inland Navigational District, the Healthcare District, and Children's Services. This is a summary of the general fund revenues. Couple important points here. At the top, you see the overall ad valorem tax level going down by about 115,000. You'll see that we are towards the bottom. You'll see an increase there of 335,000 in additional administrative reimbursements that we are extracting from the water and sewer fund and the building fund to pay their fair share of administrative service costs provided to them. Also significant at the bottom is the appropriation from reserve. It is going up about $248,000 to assist in paying with the transition costs associated with the implementation of the fire rescue department. As you can see here, the bulk of the revenues for the town's general fund do come from property taxes. Approximately 73% of the general fund revenues are from that source. Moving on to the general fund expenditures. You'll see the town manager's budget is up a bit. As Marshall said, we extracted those savings on insurance and healthcare and are using them to fund a new administrative services position that is associated with the implementation of the fire rescue department and was included in the study done by our consultant. You'll also notice towards the bottom in terms of expenditures, a significant reduction in interfund transfers, and that reflects the reduction in ad valorem taxes being transferred to the water fund to assist in paying debt service costs. In terms of percentages, the two largest costs within the town's general fund are for fire rescue and for police services. Just short of 2/3 of the general fund is for public safety costs. We anticipate that fund balance within the general fund will be relatively stable, about the same as where it stands in the previous fiscal year. Don't expect any significant change in unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 20. And as you can see there, we have a very healthy fund balance level, approximately 53% of expenditures and transfers out. And even with the use of reserves that it's anticipated and included in the proposed budget for fiscal year 22, we would still be at about approximately 47% of expenditures and transfers out. Here we have a summary of the building department special revenue fund. There's a pretty sizable increase in the permit fees, reflecting our recent history. There's also included within the fiscal 22 budget, the addition of a permit technician to help with processing of building permits. Still within our special revenue funds, this discretionary sales surtax fund. We are still not quite backed up to the amount of sales tax that we were at a couple of years ago, but there's still significant money to fund various projects. The list of projects I'll go into when we run down the capital projects for next year. Included, in addition to what you see there for fiscal year 21, we did find some additional capacity to add some mid-year additions for police vehicles, the overhead crosswalk lighting, and lighting improvements within town hall. Here's a summary of the water enterprise fund. Most significant thing to point out here is the addition of the American Recovery Plan Act federal grant dollars. We have split them between use in the water fund. We're using about 234,000 in the water fund. And as indicated here, we're using about 566,000 within the sewer enterprise fund. Even with the proposed increase in water and sewer rates that is included, or that was initially approved by the commission back in March and actually in February of this year, and began implementation in April billing cycle of this year. You can see the first arrow on the left shows where we stand in comparison to that survey average, which is that black dotted line going across the middle of the graph. Even with the increase to where we are in a couple of years in 2024, we are still just edging above that average. And it's very likely that all these other jurisdictions are going to have increases in that intervening period. And we're very likely to be still below that average as it creeps up with the increases in water and sewer rates for all these other jurisdictions. So we are still very competitive in terms of our water and sewer rates, in spite of making that significant move to cover debt service costs with water and sewer rates as opposed to ad valorem taxes.
And quick question, Matt.
Sure.
Those other jurisdictions, what year is that based on? Is that from the Raftelis study? So
It's from the
aren't they like
Raftelis.
from 2019 or 2020?
Well, some of them are from 2020. They have probably started to creep up a
Right.
little bit.
So we may look a little bit more favorable than we
may
do on
right.
this chart, because some of the other jurisdictions could have updated their water rates
And-
since then.
Most
So-
certainly, I don't know exactly how many, but
Right.
I would think that most of them have
Right,
probably raised up. And
Right.
so that average, instead of being about $194, is probably crept up
right.
much closer to 200. So we are
Right.
still going to remain competitive
right.
even after we make that full transition to supporting the debt service costs with water and sewer rates, well, actually water rates, as opposed to using the ad valorem taxes. So. And as I mentioned, in the general fund, we have relatively healthy unrestricted net position, which is the reserves within the enterprise funds. Here's the list of capital projects that are planned for fiscal year 22, with broken down by fund. You can see a few smaller projects within the building department fund. The discretionary sales surtax is taking care of a number of those projects I mentioned earlier. The entry signs at the north and south ends of town, replacing a few fences, taking care of 2 new police vehicles and a new vehicle for the fire rescue chief. It also provides for some enhanced technology within the police department with the body cameras and interactive tasers, and also make some improvements across a number of our various funds to provide UV protection in the air conditioning system in town hall and in the water plant buildings.
So Matt, a question on this. Do you record the cost or the price that we have to pay for something that is ordered but not received? So how do you treat that here? Because it would seem to me ordering a couple of fire trucks or EMS vehicles, it's going to take what, 4, 5, 6 months? No? 1 month?
No, it's a lot more. They're saying it could be a year and a half.
A year and a half? Okay, thank you.
But
I
for
was
the-
losing it there for a minute.
But for the vehicle for the fire chief, that's something we tend to buy off the Florida Sheriff's Association.
And it's ordered
contract.
already.
But so I'm more interested in
What's
the-
more likely to sort of delay the delivery of vehicles is the shortage of computer chips that's affecting
right.
the market in general.
well, and it's a big ticket item. It's, it's a low quantity item. And so I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be a long lead time.
So
So,
we are a couple of years away from ordering probably that first, right? 1
No.
year away?
No,
I
we
don't
gotta-
think so.
We have to have it spec'd out for the COCPN, so we'll probably place that order within the next 6 months. Because it's gonna take about that time to, we have to spec it out. Once they approve the spec, we'll probably insert the order, so.
So now, once we order it, and it's going to be a substantial amount, how is that then treated on the books?
You don't pay it all up front.
Yeah,
You,
No.
after the voters give us the authorization to move forward, then we would, probably as a deposit to hold your place and reserve the order, and then you pay the rest kind of cash on delivery.
So then it gets
And it would
entered.
be
here.
leased over a number of years, those.
We could lease it
Yeah,
too, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
like-
Well, it's either buy or lease, but the point is, how we record it and when. And I'm just, again, wondering, if we have two that we're going to order, do we put them on this capital list project as soon as the referendum is approved? Which is not here now?
We'll have to just see the timing of it and see how much lead time we really need.
Well, they're
to the
big
ex-
items. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
obviously, we're talking
And-
millions.
To the extent we have to fund a first year cost, a first year lease cost, that's something that we're likely to take out of reserves as part of the implementation of the, and that won't be probably the only thing that we end up taking from reserves in the middle of the year to help fund some of those transition costs and those implementation costs.
I think he's asking two different questions here.
Okay.
One, how do you book it on our books? And two, how do you show it in the planning? So this is a plan that we're looking at here. So that if hypothetically, we knew we were going to commit for it in 2022, would it be listed on here? That's question one. Is that correct, John?
Yes,
Okay, so
you're leading.
so he wants to know whether we're going to pay for it in cash or we're going to lease it or we're going to finance it other than in a lease format isn't material to this discussion, I think, in John's mind. It's just if we're going to make a commitment for hypothetically $1 million piece of apparatus, would it be on this list?
You could choose to include it. We would probably identify the funding source as commission reserves or general fund reserves.
Okay, even
And so,
though we don't know how we're going to pay for it, would it be showing up on this list? I think is his question.
If you're comfortable with it, we could, and we would only book the amount of commitment at that point in time. And then when we receive it, we would take the rest of the payments if you're paying full freight for it. Or you would just every year book the lease if you decide to do it that way.
And just to reinforce the point, which is, when you look at this, there's no reference here to a potential $1 million purchase that we may not have to pay for it, we may be leasing it, there's a lot of possibilities, but we're not accounting for it in a full disclosure manner.
Yeah, all this, obviously, we only got 390,000. We're going to write checks for all this. We're going to pay for all this.
Right.
But if there was something on here that we were going to finance, would we show its full value on this particular list? I think the answer is yes,
We
because this
would, I
is
think
not
you would-
intended to be a list of how we're going to pay.
I agree.
It's a list of how we're going to commit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Over a
the-
couple of years, we may start looking at a 5-year capital
Yeah,
program where you'll
but-
start to see each year the pieces.
Right, but that's not the intent of this list.
no, these are more of our known projects at this point in
Right.
time.
That's all it is. So the answer to then, John, is yeah, you'd see it on there.
And at the very least, you could asterisk and, again, under full disclosure to record it. So this leads into another question, which
Go
we
right
had
ahead.
when we were talking about the referendum. One of the points coming up during the truck event was, if all of a sudden we we lost a fire engine, or it burnt up, or it broke down, or whatever. And then our concern was, we don't have enough money, to buy a new one like that because we're limited according to the charter. So, but we could lease one. Now, is there a limitation on leasing
Yes,
those?
I'll answer that.
Okay,
Yeah, because we're making a commitment above $350,000.
so it's the commitment, it's not the expenditure.
Same thing.
Well, if
If we're in an emergency situation, we're gonna get a fire truck. Then we'll
Emergency,
clean it up afterwards
Yeah.
somehow.
emergency is a whole
You
different
can't not go
situation.
without. You can't go without. It's one of those things
Yeah,
you just can't do.
And
But
it
we
would
could
be
do a
insured.
short-term month to month,
Mhm.
which is under 350.
And wouldn't the vehicle
Although
be?
it's economically unfeasible to do that.
yeah, it's an emergency and you're paying through the nose for something.
Absolutely.
No, I understand. I was just trying to resolve the fact that while leasing is an option, they give us flexibility in an emergency, like we need one right away. And we're assuming we can get one right away in 2 or 3 months, not,
Mhm.
a year.
Yeah.
So,
But the whole discussion of how do we handle the ceiling on what we can spend is a discussion for another time.
yeah, no, I understand. I just was relative to this, it is an issue that came up the truck stop as an example.
Yeah, it
And-
came up with 2 people.
Yeah.
Okay, but keep in mind that until our fire department is up and running, it's Del Rey's problem to give us a backup. That's part of our contract. If the fire truck in our house goes down or the ambulance goes down, Del Rey has to back it up.
Right.
So we're 2 years at least away from
Mhm.
worrying about this.
Well, yeah, it's that plus. Yeah, I mean, we're 6 months already into this, so we're 2.5 years away from taking over, and our equipment should last another couple of years.
Yeah.
So we've got time to think about it and figure it out. But what you bring up is real. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Carry on.
Okay. You'll notice towards the bottom half, we have pretty sizable capital commitments in the sewer fund and the water fund. A large portion of that is being taken care of by 800,000 of federal grant dollars that we recently received.
What I want to jump in, Matt, thanks. On this cap, we're going to have mid-year adjustments on this capital program. One, because we're going to recognize we're transitioning to fire. We're going to have to recognize fire equipment trucks. Secondly, as we acknowledge the American Rescue Plan Act funds came in greater than we thought. We received a check for $980,000 last week. So conceivably, we could take care of the sanitary sewer project all at once. We're wrestling around with our contractor now, so we're trying to come up with a strategy. So there'll be some mid-year adjustments and discussions you're going to have to give me some direction on how you want to execute certain things. So just, this is going to be kind of a dynamic document for a while as we, recognize all this revenue and our operational changes is going to make us do some tweaks as we move forward.
I suggest we take the check, go to the casino,
Double down.
put it all on red.
I don't think you're gonna get that right.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think somebody out there is screaming right now.
We were just kidding.
I said not too many people
Just
are watching anyway.
This slide just summarizes the major initiatives for fiscal year 22. Obviously, the implementation of the fire rescue department is going to be the major driver. But the town also continues on with its strategic planning initiatives, and we're making continued reinvestments in the town and our capital projects. That's about all this presentation. We have on our calendar, basically one more budget-related event, which will be the special meeting that will take place on Tuesday, the 21st at 5:01 for the final approval of the FY22 budget.
And what is different between what we're doing now and on the last one, on the 21st?
Probably not
This
much.
is really just step number one. You have to, state law requires that we have 2 public hearings. This is the first of those public hearings.
But nothing changes in terms of the document.
Unless you tell me to change
Not,
something.
not unless
Yeah.
you have some changes to recommend.
Do we have any changes we would recommend? I don't think so. Okay.
Anybody have anything else to bring up to discuss with Matt? No?
Actually, I might want to mention one thing. I believe, remembering Jeff Remus's presentation, looking ahead to our immediate year future, I remember from his presentation that no COs were issued in the past year. And frankly, there's a building surge, reconstruction, renovation, new projects, homes, condos, townhomes. So I'm just stating that I would expect when we're in these seats in a year that we're going to see the effects of that. And this happened after the 2008 downtime. About a year and two after that, the town surged in buildings. So I want to point that out. We're moving ahead.
Agreed. And they're rather valuable projects also. Okay. I'm instructed to read some of this, so sit back and relax, check your cell phones if you need, etc. Okay. A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, adopting a final millage rate of 3.2294 mils for the town's general operating funds of the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, providing that the final millage rate of 3.2294 mils is 3.46% greater than the computed rollback rate of 3.1215 mils, providing for the severability, conflicts, and an effective date. The public hearing has been advertised in conformance with Florida statutes and town ordinances. I'm advised that there are no individuals that have registered for the public hearing. Therefore, public hearing is closed. The proposed not to exceed operating millage rate set by the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach on July 13th, 2021 was 3.2294 mils. At this time, the town manager is proposing that the operating millage rate be tentatively set at 3.2294 and that the voted debt service millage rate be tentatively set at 0.3931 mils for a total millage rate of 3.6225 mils, which is estimated to generate general fund net revenues of $9,580,365. This operating millage rate represents a 3.46% increase over the rolled back rate of 3.1215 mils. Public hearing again is now opened. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. Now open for a town discussion. Anybody have any comments?
I move we accept resolution number 2021-027.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett Sideman,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Highland Beach, Florida, adopting a final budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, determining and fixing the amounts necessary to carry on the government of the town for the ensuing year, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. Public hearing has been advertised in conformance with Florida statutes and town ordinances. Public hearing is now open. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. There a town commission discussion? Hearing none.
I move we accept resolution number 2021-028.
Second.
Okay, and we have a roll call vote.
I didn't see.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett Sideman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Hillman,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you all. Let's move on now to commission meeting notes. Let's first review the August 9th commission meeting notes. Does anybody have any comments on it? If you do, speak up.
My comment is that they're simple and they're very short and to the point. I have no comments.
Well done. Anybody?
By bottom of page 42, there's an incomplete sentence under Water Enterprise Fund motion. It states Water Enterprise Fund in parentheses proposed budget for the. I'm guessing.
What's your page now? Page
42.
Midway.
Item
42.
C, the last sentence of the motion.
To accept the Water Department Water Enterprise Fund proposed budget. Okay, I need to
Just
take
to
out
miss it.
4. Just say the proposed budget.
Proposed budget, strike 4 and
Yeah,
the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it might have been for the fiscal year
Yeah.
or something.
no, it was just proposed budget.
Okay, and I think there was one more. No, that was it for that one.
Okay, while you're looking for that, let's go on to August 24th. Any comments on that?
Oh, yes, my other one was in that, page 49, second paragraph. It says, of the support of the Wonder Town staff. I think it might have meant to be wonderful.
Where are you, please?
Sure. Second paragraph, page 49,
Yeah,
the little 2-line short paragraph.
Commissioner Evelyn David.
Yes, mentioned that the town commission could operate the way it does because of the support of the Wonder Town staff.
Wonderful.
So
Thank
yes, I think that's,
Yep.
otherwise,
It's funny, I remember, I actually remember reading that short sentence and I read wonderful.
Yeah,
the
you
brain
mentally
does
put
those
it in.
things.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept both? With the corrections?
I move we accept the minutes of August 9th, 2021 and August 24th, 2021 with the proposed corrections.
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Move on to the town manager's report.
Well, the budget's looking pretty solid. Again, we have another food truck event on the 23rd. We'll have a very busy next Tuesday, so we're gonna, Teresa's coordinating some food supplies to keep you guys carved up for the 2 meetings back to back, but we have a lot of items we're gonna be handling. You've got your committee reappointments. We'll be on the meeting. We're going to talk about the intercoastal waterway. We're going to do their building recertification. We got to approve the architect. We're going to talk about getting the lobbyist. So we got a lot of things coming on for next Tuesday. So just keep that in mind and we'll get through it all, but it'll be a long journey, if you will.
Okay, would you add in the review, the final review for the fire rescue insignia?
Oh, yeah, sure. Certainly.
Thing?
Yep. Forgot about that one. So got a lot of stuff going. We're making a lot of good progress. Again, we're just focusing on handling the month, getting everything with budget, cleaning out the books, and then we'll break into that new fiscal year and start making headway. We know we owe you some reports on the water and sewer billing to kind of keep you up to pace there. Then eventually we're going to turn that over to Raf Tallis to kind of do an update, recognizing this influx of dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act. So everything's looking good.
Do we have many for the boards?
Yeah, it's gonna be long.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sorry it's long, but it's good that we have
Yes.
Yeah, it's
interest on the board.
Yeah.
So that's great. Good news.
I believe Beverly emailed everyone the applications today. So,
Oh, okay.
I think it's
just
like
didn't- I just didn't
87.
catch up with it, that's all.
It's a nice stack of
Yeah,
papers.
and there's a lot of reappointments too, so don't, I mean, some of them will go pretty quick. It'll be some of the newer appointments you probably have a longer deliberation on.
Okay, reappointments. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's just talk about that for a second while we're here. Do we need to interview people for reappointments? Does anybody think that's necessary? I got one head shaking no. Do you think it's necessary?
Well, for me, no, but I've been up here 4 years, so maybe for newer commissioners, it might be interesting.
Well, our vice mayor.
I'm fine
is the
either
newest,
way.
And she doesn't think so. You think it's, no, none of us think it's necessary to interview reappointments. And unless you can shed some light on it, Marshall, of what
And I
we're
would,
missing.
if we had issue, if you will, you would already probably know. But everybody's been doing great work. As Commissioner Simon had said at the last meeting, so we have a good group kind of firing on all cylinders, and we're just going to fill hopefully those remaining seats and keep us moving forward.
My
Okay, so
only,
let's pass all reappointments. They don't have to be interviewed.
We
That'll
will
cut
let
some
them
time
know.
Down as well.
We will let them know they don't have to come to the meeting next week.
And
the only
don't-
time I
Don't
would have,
schedule them on Zoom or anything.
the only time I would have an objection would be if the chairman of the particular advisory committee didn't want somebody reappointed.
Oh, for sure.
So,
100%. Yeah.
but without that,
So let's take this approach then. First, ask the chairperson. Okay? If the chairperson says not necessary, then we will back them.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, the
Okay.
chairperson do vet them and put their vetting memo with but we will ask them.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah.
If I could check with Marshall, I'm trying to remember if we have an ordinance covering this, because in 2018, we discussed this at length and revised the board appointment process and so forth, and the board duties. Did we enact an ordinance? I can't remember.
That
That
it
would
probably took. would kinda
require
s-
discussion at an open meeting with notice to the public.
I think we purposely had written it to give you certain flexibility. So I remember a couple people in the room when I said, we're just going to do it twice a year, was like, why would we do it twice a year? Not, keep this process moving. But we do a little bit of a background check, especially for the newer folks. That takes a little bit of time for Detective Fernandez to kind of go through that process to make sure, who we're bringing on board.
Sure.
Especially, we do a little bit more on the financial advisory board to make sure folks are, don't have any financial problems. You generally don't want to get that advice. So it does slow the process down a little bit, but we have the flexibility that you guys have the right to structure that process. But it really stipulates we call for those folks to come out. However you want to deliberate it, I'll kick it back out. Maybe that'll be helpful just to remind everybody the old not really an old policy. 2 years seems like a long time sometimes,
Yeah,
but
true.
I'll get that back out and circulate it for everyone to look at, just to know what those restrictions or policy guidance was for those appointments. And the last thing I would say is we wrapped up the Charter Review Board report today. I got that together or assembled as the committee wanted. It's with the committee for one last look to make sure I don't have a typo or miss somebody's important concept or statement. And then that looks like it'll be coming back to you all in the fall here, probably in October, to start looking at their report and how you want to structure your conversation on what elements you want to move forward.
Refresh my memory for a second. I do recall that this is purely a recommendation and we accept or reject the recommendation, or we adjust it in some way. But can we also add things?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Mhm.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah.
If I could just remind the commission and Marshall and everyone, I just wanted to be careful because we do have Florida's open records law. And if we are to discuss something and consider it or vote on it, it should be noticed in the agenda in advance. And I want to make sure that we follow that. When we did away with workshops with no voting, that was the time we can all chitter chatter and just come to no conclusion or vote. But I just want to say we need to be careful if there were an ordinance on the book then we shouldn't be discussing it without noticing it in the agenda beforehand.
Yeah, well, we're not voting on it.
I know, but we have to be careful because we've bordered on that a few times. I just want to follow the state law. If I could
Good
just
point.
point that out. It's
Duly
all.
noted.
We want to do the correct, cool thing. Thank you.
Sure.
So as a follow-up in the same vein, why October? Cannot we get some sort of draft before then?
Sure. I'll send you the recommendation report. You guys can review it before you actually schedule it for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get the report ahead of time to see what their thoughts are. I'm sure you've been following them as they move through. So it's just a consolidation of their recommendations. And then eventually we schedule it for formal discussions. What do you want to do? How do you want to talk about this? What's your timelines? Things of that nature.
Gotcha. Anybody have anything else? No, it is 6:01 and we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Done.
Yeah.
Well, when
They were
it's
good.
done right.